The defenders of Donald Trump have been saying, we need more info, something, anything that will make what Trump did seem acceptable. So you released your justification for raiding Mar-a-Lago, and we got a bunch of information about how many documents he'd stolen. So what haven't you released yet? I guess the affidavit, could you release that? Maybe that'll have something. Well, breaking news, it has been released. Still redacted in some places, although honestly, the argument for why they say they need to continue to redact it, that in itself looks pretty damning for Donald Trump. It's all according to the DOJ, so grains of salt all around, but they have released it. And first of all, they've revealed that 14 of the 15 boxes retrieved from Mar-a-Lago earlier this year contained 184 documents with classification markings. We finally have the breakdown of how classified they are. 67 were marked as confidential, 92 were marked as secret, 25 as top secret, and just one as threat level midnight. We don't know what's in that one just yet, but we're waiting to find out. So that's a lot of documents right there. And of the documents that they aren't yet willing to reveal, that are redacted right now still, they say this: the materials marked for redaction must remain sealed to protect the safety and privacy of a significant number of civilian witnesses. So not just civilian witnesses, a significant number of civilian witnesses, in addition to law enforcement personnel, as well as to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation, to avoid disclosure of grand jury material in violation of the federal rules of criminal procedure. So there's multiple little spicy tidbits in that. They also say that disclosure of the affidavit would likely result in witnesses being quickly and broadly identified over social media and other communications channels, which could lead to them being harassed and intimidated, which is not just a possibility. That's the only reason they want that information out there on the other side. They want to be able to hound these people into not participating. But Brett, you've got a bunch of documents, you've got significant number of witnesses, you've got law enforcement personnel that need to be protected, that all makes sense. And then not only an ongoing investigation, but references to grand jury material. Go.
So this is one of the Rorschach tests based on what your pre-existing biases are. Like, it is very obvious that, and there's enough blots of ink that everyone can glom on to one or another. So the Trump team is gonna glom on to, well, who are these people? They seem to be you just basically say to me, oh, I just am looking after these, yeah, there's a lot of folks that you're basing all your movements on, and we don't know who those are. Why the opacity? And they've already moved the goalpost from show me the warrant to show me the affidavit. If there's so much as like a smudged letter on the Xerox of the affidavit, they're gonna glom onto that. And it is important that everybody understands they always already are gonna do stuff like that. The same way people on the left are probably gonna say, show me the, throw them in jail already. Our job is to sit there and say, well, what is the evidence for? What is the evidence against? And still remind people that Donald Trump, no matter how many like signed secret documents he brought to Mar-a-Lago, this is still a guy who should be in jail for a bunch of other reasons. The most important and germane of which is he inspired and conspired to create an insurrection to overthrow the Democratic results of an election.
Yeah, 100%. And look, you're not only right that he should be for other things, but also I would argue if it was going to be for anything, there are many other things for which it more should be. That's grammar for you, but you get what I'm saying. Look, did he break the law? Apparently, hundreds of times, willingly. He knew it. He tried to cover it up. He tried to, interfere with the investigation. All of that is serious, and there should be consequences when you knowingly commit crimes. But these are not amongst the most serious things, at least with the information that we have right now. However, hold on to your butts, everyone, because we've got more breaking news on top of breaking news. I've been waiting to see, when is Donald Trump going to respond to the affidavit being released? And it's out now, everybody. If you've cruised over to True Central in the past couple of minutes, then you might have seen this. Here is the official response by the former president of the United States to the information being released by the DOJ about the raid in his home. It's very professional. Affidavit heavily redacted, nothing mentioned on nuclear, a total public relations subterfuge by the FBI and DOJ. Oh, he learned a new word. On our close working relationship regarding document turnover, we gave them much Yeah, but you kept hundreds of documents that you couldn't have. It's not like like you do one for the studio and then you do one for you. You got to give them all. None of them are yours. Judge Bruce Reinhardt should never have allowed the break-in of my home. He recused himself 2 months ago from one of my cases based on his animosity and hatred of your favorite president, me.
Oh my God.
He still fit that in a response to a DOJ doc release. Me, what changed? Why hasn't he recused himself on this case? Obama must be very proud of him right now. Man, that's a throwback. Up until this point, he had been talking earlier today about political hacks and thugs. He sent out one message that just said, keep loving our country. It will come back into your hearts stronger than ever before. I don't know what that means, but he is right. There's no references to anything specifically about nuclear. I don't know how specific affidavits tend to be. And it is not impossible in the end that the leaks that I think the Washington Post might have gotten a couple of weeks ago about there being documents related to nuclear technology or preparedness or defenses or whatever might not end up being true. All of that is totally possible. That said, there's nothing that I can see as a non-lawyer in the released affidavit that implies, oh yeah, no, they had nothing. This was totally a witch hunt. This was fake. This was a hoax. This doesn't, like they wanted it to be released so they could say, here's something that means he's not guilty. I don't see anything in that implies that.
Right, John, but you're just not looking underneath the parts that were redacted. That is where the only redacted parts that say JK. Not really. They put that, not at all. They just redacted all those moments. And I just want to clarify what I think everybody's thinking, but a lot of people are pretending is not the case. When people heard that Donald Trump kept nuclear documents, people reacted so intensely because that was hilarious and pretty much what they suspected the case would be. Not that it was absolutely ironclad and true. Like, as much as people on the right, when they say terrible, horrible things kind of as a joke, and we point out that the basis of that joke kind of sucks. Yes, the basis of a joke saying that Donald Trump actually stole nuclear secrets, if he hadn't actually stole nuclear secrets, like that's kind of messed up, but no one really was acting on that or calling on anyone to do anything. People were just like, it is hilarious, and exactly what I would assume Trump would do is just walk off with the nuclear codes. And what's probably more likely is that he stole a bunch of stuff so he could put it in his presidential library, or he just was embarrassed by it and didn't want other people to have it. That's what makes the most sense to me. And that's backed up by his unwillingness to give that stuff back. And all that's happening now is the DOJ being like, you want more receipts? Here's the long form birth certificate of how you suck, period.
Okay. Anyway, so those are the details we have right now. There is some interesting stuff in there. I would love to hear more about at what phase in this grand jury thing are we, or is that a purely speculative thing where like we don't know yet, but these would be materials that would be used in one. Stay tuned to find out about that. But geez, man, this story started in the week that I branded the best week of news in several years, and it has been the week that has kept on giving.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.